Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. I'm Beatriz Mourad, and today I'm joined by Alex Bonilla.
Hello.
And Sam Quattro.
Hi.
Today we will be recapping the third and fourth episodes of She-Ra Season 4, Flutterina and Pulse, which dropped along with the rest of the season earlier this month. Warning, all of us have seen Season 4 in its entirety. We will be discussing these episodes and how they interact with the rest of the season, so spoilers for everything in Season 4, but especially for these two episodes. You can find more about this podcast at overlyanimated.com. You can subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, or on YouTube at youtube.com/overlyanimated. So yeah. Tell me, what are your general thoughts on these two episodes, Alex?
So I feel weird about these episodes because I get the sense, I got the feeling that they were even more setup-y than the first two episodes.
Yeah.
Like I got a lot of fun out of the first two episodes. I thought those worked well standalones. These episodes, I mean, they still have their moments, but like they definitely feel even more to the point of like serving the story, but without being as fun by itself. I will say that episode 3 of Flutterina has a lot of good Quattro double trouble stuff, so that's always a positive in this season. And Bo and Adora have their chemistry that it reminded me a lot of like their season 1 interactions, because Adora acts pretty similar as she did in season 1 to like, whoa, parties, whoa, attention, what is this? I feel like we haven't gotten this side of Adora in a while, so it felt like a good throwback in that sense. So like episode 3, I would probably choose that over episode 4, but yeah, I think that these are even more obviously like ways for us to get to the meat of this story, but this because of that. Like it kind of gets hard to keep your focus on them, but they have their moments. So also episode 4, Glimmer and Shadow Weaver, that's a big point of the season, and I think that scene was really well done. So I enjoyed that part as well. So we'll get into all these like little pieces, and I think that there are a lot of good pieces, but I'm not sure that they all come together to make great episode.
Yeah. What about you, Sam? Do you agree?
So, yeah, I do agree that these are kind of like setup-y episodes with things that will be important later on, especially the Flutterina stuff. Yeah, I mean, honestly, they kind of harken back a little bit to me what season 1 felt like. It felt like, oh, we're just fighting the bots, we're going from this place to the other, we're doing the things. It's fine while it's happening, but I personally wouldn't call either of these like one of my favorites, or that they had too much to stand out from the typical formula. I mean, obviously we have plot stuff going on with Double Trouble. Obviously we have, Spinnerella and Natasha.
Yeah, Netassa, yes.
Yes, that's such a name.
Yeah, that's
obviously
a name.
We have them. But, like, there's not nothing, but, like, things that I personally like to latch on to, there's not that much of that here.
Gotcha.
I do want to point out something important that Sam mentions here, the bots. Like, this was a big complaint from the previous seasons, right? It's like, the bots are technology. They have no personality.
Yep.
So it's really hard for me to pay attention when there's a full episode of, okay, these are new bots. We got to figure out what they do, and then we take them down. But there's no connection to the villain there, as opposed to when they're fighting a Quattro or when they're fighting a Scorpia. I don't know. So that's a big part of what I think makes episode 4 feel off, because just that, like, they're fighting against something that I get that you've spent 5 seasons trying to convince me that these are very powerful foes. But I just cannot bring myself to really invest myself in taking down another big round metal ball.
Yeah, I agree with everyone here. I don't like how, and I mean, I agree, Sam, these are these feel like season 1 episodes, but I would argue they're like a knockoff of season 1, because at least in season 1, even if you take out the bots, at least I think those episodes established more stakes. Whereas with these two episodes, despite everything happening, I was just like, where are the stakes? I know that I felt like the mission seemed meaningless, like the things, they didn't feel like there was a lot on it, even though there is. It didn't feel like it.
Like, it's crazy. Like, Bo gets knocked out this episode.
I know.
Activate She-Ra powers, like, turn him on. And, like, somehow that doesn't feel high stakes enough. I don't get it.
I know. It's so strange. Like, I mean, and for instance, in that moment, and that was episode 4. And in that moment, I remember being like, oh, we're going dark. Oh, this is big. And then it ends up being, it's all fine and everything's okay. And I mean, even same with episode 3, with the Flutterina episode, when, like, suddenly, like, She-Ra comes back to the party and everyone's gone and everything's devastated. Like, that is pretty dark, and I thought we'd explore that a little bit more, and instead it all works out in the end. It's weird. It's like kind of like it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I don't know. I think Double Trouble mentions how it's like, oh, like espionage. This is a long game. This is like you meticulous, like subtle. It's not big boom, like big moment type of thing. And even then, I still think like there are no, I still felt it was very boring to me. I think of this season, these 2 episodes are the weakest. I think is safe to say. Alex, you're right that there are particular moments that shine and are very important to the rest of the season and dropping and planting these seeds of how everything's going to come together. But I don't know. I just felt like, it just wasn't that interesting. It's weird. It's kind of like, it's as if they were like, okay, we have these 2 episodes to like, we can't have everything happen all at once. So we have these 2 episodes to kind of fill things in. And they felt like fillers, even though they're not, because there's still big things that happen to them. It's very strange. But let's dive into episode 3, Flutterina. Let's start with how it opens, which is this nightmare that Quattro has, which is really interesting. I mean, it's basically you have Quattro seeing Entrapta, reliving that moment where she betrays Entrapta and sends her to Beast Island. And then you have her seeing Adora. And Adora telling her, why did you do it? Whether it's, why did you open the portal? Or, why did you do that to Entrapta? It could be either or. But I thought this was like a very interesting kind of scene, especially to open up, because Adora still remains Quattro's moral compass. And I don't know if it's, or rather like moral meter, because she's still the one that Quattro is seeking approval of. Like, she's the one that Quattro looks to and says, did I do this right or did I do this wrong? Like, what do you think of me? Your opinion matters more than everyone else's. So I'm just curious what you guys took from this particular scene, from this nightmare. Sam.
Well, I don't know. I didn't think of it that way, that, like, Adora is Quattro's moral compass, but I do like that take, and you know what? I think I'll adopt it. It's mine now. I agree.
Wow.
Take it.
I think that's like a really human thing, even though, like, if you're having a fight with somebody, or if, you're not as close to somebody as you used to be, you still find yourself caring what they think of things. Like, even if you're not connected anymore, even if their opinion shouldn't matter,
right.
Like, I know personally, like, I've done that where I'm like, oh, I wonder what this person would think of this. I should do what they think. Wait, no, I haven't talked to this person in like 5 years. What am I doing? So I think that's like one of the little nice human moments that always gets sprinkled in to She-Ra that I like.
Yeah, I would say that this scene is important just to remind you, like, hey, look, Quattro's not totally a heartless person. Like, she is dealing with, like, internal struggles, and she's exposing them outside in terms of being hostile to pretty much everyone who comes in contact with her. But on the inside, she does have guilt, even as she, like, does her best to deflect it at every chance she gets. So it was especially powerful to see her like just like sleeping like without her mask on or anything like that. Like it's just felt like a much rawer Quattro than we've been allowed to see up to this point in the show.
I feel like, I don't know if it was Noelle who tweeted it or if it was just somebody else, but somebody said the reason why Quattro's hair is like that is because she cut off her bangs. Because I don't know, she wanted to like she won't have to change herself and like get rid of like this juvenile or part of herself that was like not that she wasn't connecting with anymore, which I can also relate to. I channel my impulses and feelings through my hair as well. I like that.
Yeah, this is the first look at Quattro Zoo. And interesting, I think of the only two characters that go through changes in hair are Catra and Glimmer, right?
Mm.
That's
parallels.
Does that mean something?
It means that for the end.
Yeah,
maybe.
It's both of them dealing with the struggles of power and the struggles of adding responsibilities that they were unprepared to have to deal with. And so they cut their hair.
Well, I think Glimmer just styled it differently. I don't know if she cut it, but yeah, that's interesting. That's I just thought of that little bit of information. And I think it's fair to say that this was a tough episode for Scorpia in relation to Catra, because Catra just uses Scorpia as a punching bag in this episode. It's basically be mean to Scorpia day in this episode. Did it hurt anyone as much as it hurt me to continue to see Scorpia? Like, yes, we know later on in the season, Scorpia finally stands up for herself and stuff, but it's still very it was still just, I guess this is like the reminder episode of just how unhealthy their relationship is at the moment.
Yeah, how bad like Catra treats Scorpia, and thankfully Scorpia walks away from that, but it hurts, man.
Yeah.
This is what angst fanfic is all about, really.
And in the first episode, I think we commented on like Scorpia giving like kind of a perturbed look when Catra pushes her up against the wall, and that's like the first sign of trouble going on. And like here in episode 3 as well, I think that moment where Catra's just like, we're not friends, and like you can tell like Scorpia's face changes a little bit, like oh no, like this is wrong. So like slowly we're seeing the pieces of Scorpia's facade fall away as she continues to get beaten up emotionally by Catra throughout this season.
I think, and this is one of the reasons why I love Scorpia so much, is that when do we see a character who is like on the villain side of things that is so optimistic, that is just so earnest and just wishes for the best, and what you're seeing here is her kind of losing that optimism of just hoping for is trying to find the best in Catra and trying to be like, oh no, she's just having a bad day or whatever, and it's so painful, it's so harsh. My poor Scorpia. But let's talk about that's all happening. Also, that's also something that's happening in the Horde that's worth always pointing out. Hordak is still sad about Entrapta. Still sad. Entrapta, the little crumbs we got this season.
That line where he's just like looking at like a wrench or something. He's like, "Did you really do it, Entrapta?" It's
when he finds the coin, that's Bo's like technology. He's like, is this your work? Is this your doing, Entrapta? And I'm just like, oh, Hordak, you're still stuck on her. Anyway, okay, that's as far as Entrapta goes, because that's all we got from this episode. But
that's a lot, okay?
That is a lot.
She can't leave his thoughts because
she's haunting him, just like she's haunting Catra, but in a different way. So let's talk about. So that's all happening with the Horde. They're basically the setup of the episode is that Catra is fighting with Hordak about this place called Elberon, which Hordak's like, we have to control Elberon. Catra's like, no, but who cares about Elberon? We need to focus on bigger things. Elberon being this town that Adora and Bo went to free from Horde control. I have one question for you guys. Why does Elberon matter strategically?
I don't think it does. I think that Hordak is quite the single-minded kind of war person. It's like, oh, we just got to get as much territory as possible. But that's it. I don't care about strategic importance of land or anything. It's just, if we can get it, let's take it. So I think that's Hordak's strategy, and that's why Catra is there to balance out. Like, hey, look, it doesn't matter, but we can use this to make a better move in the future. And so and then they devised this whole plan. Like, we don't actually care about taking over Elbron. We care about just manipulating the situation so we get Double Trouble into their group. So like that is like very amazing planning by Quattro. I'm not sure how she managed to make this kind of plan, but like it's a strong way to manipulate both the our best friend crew, and also she's manipulating Hordak, because like she knows like Hordak doesn't really care about the strategy stuff, but like he wants this town, and I guess I'll just use this opportunity to do my stuff.
Okay. Can I just say that this is why I think these two, this is like this kind of reasoning that the show puts forth for us is one of the reasons why these two episodes lack stakes for me. Because if say for instance, if Elbron had actually been like some a village or town that actually has some sort of strategic placement on the map of Etheria, then like having Quattro being able to convince Hordak to not do the strategic thing and to think long goal, long plan thing or something. I think like if that had been the case, if that had been established, which by the way, I'm not saying they should spend like 10 minutes on this. They should just like a throwaway line of just like, it's like strategically placed and blah, blah, blah. I feel like the stakes would have just been that much. The missing stakes of this episode would have just actually been there. Like it would have been solved easily. Because for a long time, I'm just thinking like, why does Elbron matter? Like, and if like, I don't know. I just think it was a way to kind of dumb down Hordak in a way that was unnecessary. I'm like, I want, if they're going to give me like a war, give me something to work with here. Don't make it all just like, oh, like, we're just gonna kidnap these people and then we're just gonna let them go and all, like, the horde soldiers are gonna disappear magically once She-Ra does her thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, there's just a lot here that I'm like, there are these little moments, and this is, like, really the first one, where it's like, all right, here's a moment to actually give us some stakes for the episode, and sure, we know that by the end of the episode, everything's gonna be resolved, but you can give us some sort of thing of, like, oh, well, this mattered. There's cost to making these choices, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and apologies if this is jumping ahead a bit too much, but I think that what you know about Flutterina makes a huge difference in how you consume this episode. Because, like, if you're on first watch and you don't know that, or you haven't perceived that Flutterina is a spy, then I would totally agree. You're like, what does any of this action matter at all? Like, we're just like a random town, and there's this like random girl who's like popping up in places and like doing stuff, and it's just like a very like back and forth thing. But on second watch, it's like, oh, okay, I'm seeing like the little machinations that are going on, and like manipulating these people into believing that Flutterina can join this gang. So like because of it, like I don't really remember. I mean, my problem is that I was spoiled on the first watch, so I already knew from first watch that it was the spy. So like I didn't experience the episode without that knowledge, but I can totally see that if you're watching this episode for the first time and you don't have that information, it's like, well, what is going on here? Maybe that makes the twist at the end better, but it makes the whole episode before that a bit like, okay, what's going on? But with that information, I think that this episode works a lot better.
I think it works better, but I do still think that like we could have had like something to be like, okay, well, why does Elbron even matter? It could have been any city. You know what I mean? It could have been anywhere. So why is it that it's right at this moment that we're going to do this? Like, you know what I mean? I just wanted the decision to go with Double Trouble, like the choice to matter a little bit more. But Sam, do you, did you know about the Flutterina twist when you first watched it on first watch? And is Elbron something, is it in the grand scheme of things, like it doesn't matter? Elbron doesn't really matter, which
it doesn't matter. like I'm not here for the political intrigue or war stuff, honestly. To answer the first question, I didn't know about Flutterina the first time around, but I think I said this in the season recap podcast. When I was watching it the second time, I was really looking for, was Flutterina a real person?
Okay, I had a whole section about this, but continue.
Yeah, but was she a real person, or was she just something that Double Trouble made up? Okay, and I think it might be the latter, honestly, and that bothers me because this town is not acknowledging this random child who belongs to nobody. There's like, Whatever. I've never seen this kid before. Whose kid is this? There's only so many moth people in the world.
But
So,
look, also, like, this leader person was like, oh, this was supposed to be small, but then the whole town figured out, and, like, all these people showed up out of nowhere to do this party. So, like, what if it's just, I mean, do you know everyone who lives in your neighborhood? Probably not. So it's just like, okay, there's just a bunch of kids here.
They seem like a tight-knit community.
Do they?
I mean,
they
don't have, like, video games and stuff to keep them indoors and away from their neighbors. So, like, I don't know. It seems a bit unrealistic to me.
I mean, to be fair, I mean, they had been under control of the Horde, so I wouldn't be surprised if they started doing, like, body count, like, who's here, who's alive. Like, we gotta make sure everyone's, like, you know. But I will say I did have this whole section that I had to take away because while I was writing the outline for episode 3, because then I saw episode 4 and it actually gives us the answer to Flutterina. Because at first I was like, did Double Trouble kill Flutterina? Was there like a switch where Flutterina at one point actually was Flutterina and then Double Trouble comes in and it's like, when exactly is there the switch? But in episode 4, Double Trouble, like, Quattro asks Double Trouble about Flutterina, and Double Trouble goes like, oh, Flutterina's my greatest creation, I thought, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So I think Flutterina is just purely a made-up person.
I hate that.
Could you imagine if we just saw like episode 7, Double Trouble, like opening their closet and there's just like a kidnapped kid? Like,
I mean, honestly, I kind of would have preferred that. I would have preferred that, to be honest, because it would show you just like, you know, how villainous these villains are. You know, I would have preferred Double Trouble have killed a child and just been like, yeah, I will do what I have to do to get my money. You know?
Yeah, I was expecting that other shoe to drop because admittedly, when on first watch, I wasn't fully paying attention to the episode Flutterina. My bad. I got a little bit distracted. I was like, oh, like, obviously that's Double Trouble now because we know that's what Double Trouble does. They, like, turn into other people. So where's the real Flutterina? And I was waiting for that to happen and it never did.
And you do bring up a good point of just where does no one recognize this child? I mean, basically Double Trouble just crashed a huge party and just got away with it, which is also kind of awesome. But yeah,
how you gotta do it. You just show up to parties that nobody's gonna recognize you because there's too many people, and you win. The end.
Yeah.
Party crashing 101.
There you go. I will say I didn't know that about the twist on first watch. It was and I was Alex, you're right. By the end of it, before the twist is revealed, I thought, what is the point of this? What's going on? And then I felt once the twist was revealed, I felt very dumb because I thought, yes, they just introduced us to a shapeshifter. Of course, they're going to use them to infiltrate the camp. Like, I mean, I was just like, wow, I felt very silly. But yeah, so we have this party cut short because Bo and Adora saved the city, the town, and then they're having a celebration. Suddenly, gasp! A Horde bot shows up. So they're like, okay. Adora's like, don't worry, I got this. And Adora goes with Swiftwind, leaves Bo with the people there, and then when she comes back, the party is abandoned, and the only person she finds is Flutterina. So yeah, then they go save the villagers from Quattro and Scorpio and the Horde.
Bo saves the villagers.
Yeah, Bo saves the villagers.
Really do much.
By the way, like, I know that they kind of set up Bo saving the villagers with the coin because he was doing magic, and then, of course, like, haha, you still have the coin from the magic trick. But that's a pretty powerful coin. Literally, all it takes is just the coin to break that shield. Are you kidding me? I think this is one of those things where, again, I'm just finding, especially with these 4 episodes to start off, and in general, I don't think She-Ra has ever been like a great action show. Like, in terms of the action She-Ra, it's never been like kind of crazy. In a way, it kind of reminds me of Sailor Moon, where usually it's just this like one power move that Sailor Moon does that just fixes everything. But it just kind of, for me, it just kind of got out of hand, where Bo literally all Bo does is throw an arrow and then everything's fixed and he saves the villagers, which to me is just a little too easy. But I don't know. I mean, again, granted, maybe it's intentionally easy because they want them to get away so that Flutterina can infiltrate the camp.
It's all part of the master plan.
It's all part of the master plan. But, you know, it could have been like a little bit interesting or exciting. I don't know. I mean, if that's the case, they shouldn't have taken away his bow. You know what I mean? If they wanted to make it easy, go all the way. But yeah,
by the way, yeah. Flutterina like fully selling the acting, like throwing a rock at Quattro in the middle.
Oh yeah, that was brilliant. I was just like, oh, can we please have like, and we don't hear from it again. We don't hear about that. Quattro does not mention it ever again, which I was very disappointed with.
Yeah, Quattro's a good actress. She was somehow like, she's like, oh, okay, I know you're doing this for the bit, so I will fly with this, which is like not something I'd expect out of Quattro, but good for her. She's willing to do things that are sort of funny for the point.
Yeah, but something interesting is that Quattro doesn't tell Scorpia about the plan. The only people who know about the plan are Hordak, Quattro, and Double Trouble. So isn't that? I mean, I feel like that's a pretty big thing because usually Scorpia's like right there with Quattro. I wonder if this is just further. I mean, it's interesting because Quattro kind of just glomps on to Double Trouble. Clearly, Quattro's just like, I want a friend. But there's this kind of, I feel like she, after the whole portal thing, after the whole Entrapta thing, she doesn't trust even Scorpia anymore. Which isn't, I don't know. And like, Scorpia has always been someone that Quattro can count on by just how we're seeing cracks in Adora and Glimmer and their relationship and the trust that they have with one another. We did see that in these, at least in these 4 episodes, we do see that with Scorpia. But it's just not as emphasized because we're rooting for Scorpia to see the bad in Quattro in a way. But I thought that was a really interesting kind of detail to note. But what do you think is like Scorpia's opinion of Double Trouble now? Based on, like, everything. Like, do you think, like, because I don't think we get, I kind of wish we had gotten a little bit more interaction between Double Trouble and Scorpia. Maybe, like, more of a, I don't know, maybe, I wouldn't say jealousy, but, you know, kind of like, oh, like, now you're her right-hand person, and I don't want, like, what the heck? Did you need that, or no?
So, Sam, you seem like the cipher on Scorpia emotions. How would Scorpia feel about this?
All right. Well, okay. I don't think Scorpia is jealous of Double Trouble. I think she might just be a little bit off-put by them. A little bit like, I don't know. Like, maybe she just doesn't know how to feel. Because she wants to be so secure in that, oh, Quattro needs me, a good friend, and not like this espionage mastermind, you know? So I don't know if she has an opinion on Double Trouble.
I think that Scorpia subscribes to the theory that you're allowed to have many friends. And so I think that she, deep down, she's happy that Quattro has someone else that she can lean on. But the problem is that she's also being hurt at the same time. Like, oh, Quattro doesn't trust me. But yeah. I don't think that she blames Double Trouble for that, because I think that she is smart enough to see those as two different issues. Yeah. So like Scorpia is struggling to like keep her optimism for Quattro, but she's probably rooting inside like, yeah, Quattro, Double Trouble, be friends. You guys enjoy each other's company. Friends are good. Love is good. I think that's how Scorpia thinks.
Yeah. I mean, Scorpia was a little jealous of Adora. So I don't know. That's why I think that's where it came from. I mean, I'm going back to season 2, I think.
Yeah, and that was like a different situation where
it was.
Yeah,
she was kind of drunk a little bit. I don't know if drunk is the right word because she didn't drink alcohol, but she was like kind of poisoned. Well, I don't even remember that episode that well.
Yeah, it was like the first one's tech that was poisoning her. I think that's different though. That's like Scorpia being jealous of their relationship,
right?
Yeah,
which obviously had romantic connotations.
Right, and also Scorpia knows that like Adora and Quattro grew up together, so like that's like a much stronger bond that she needs to fight against versus Quattro and Double Trouble who have just met. So she doesn't feel as threatened by that.
Right. Fair. And yeah, Scorpia's in a different place now. But yeah, that's really it for episode 3. Do you have any other comments of Flutterina, or are we good with that episode?
Yeah, I mentioned in opening thoughts, but like Adora and Bo together in this episode have some decent back and forth, very reminiscent of season 1, like, just like taking it all in, being excited about being She-Ra. Adora is very excited, like, wow, they're telling stories about me, not about the past She-Ras, like that. So just obviously we're setting her up to be disappointed in herself for accepting the praise, which hurts because she deserves praise. Like, she shouldn't feel bad about that, but because all this other stuff goes on, and she's made to feel bad about it. So Adora, she should enjoy life and not let the circumstances get to her. But obviously the party stuff is, very, very side stuff. But I at least enjoy Adora and Bo hanging out.
Yeah, we miss Glimmer.
I like that they hang up on Glimmer.
Yeah, I'm saying we miss Glimmer, and Sam's like, I like that they hung up on her.
All right, it's not that I don't like Glimmer. I like Glimmer. It's just, okay, I do like the plot line this season of, like, Glimmer versus Bo and Adora.
Yeah.
Not versus, but like them having a wedge driven between. And this episode does aid to that in a small way, but nonetheless.
Yeah. I will say this is the start of the strong Swiftwind episodes. And just that Swiftwind is not as annoying. Alex, you mentioned in the last pod that Swiftwind is like better.
I said that, but now rewatching these episodes,
you're backtracking.
I need to see maybe it's the second half of the season that made me think that, but like, he's not that much improved in these 2 episodes. Like, especially episode 4, he gets to be pretty annoying, but. Is
he better, or is there just more of him that you need to tolerate?
I don't know. I think it's I think it's that there's less of him. I think it's like there's less of an emphasis on him. Like, so he just shows up for and it's funny because at least, for instance, like in episode 4 when he says, "Does someone say Swiftwind?" and then Glimmer being like, "No one said Swiftwind." So it's just kind of, I stand by them really just making everyone aware that he's annoying, which is great. But yeah, I do think it's better. We're getting him in smaller doses, which makes it better. But clearly, you convinced me, Alex, and now you're backtracking. So
look,
I'm left alone with Swiftwind.
I need more proof.
All right. All right. Well, then we'll move on to episode 4, Pulse. So this, I think episode 4, even of episode 3 and 4, episode 4 is the weakest of the 2. But despite that, it's like, I understand why we needed episode 4, because we did need an episode to show that they're, like, the fallout of there being a mole in the She-Ra side of things. Like, obviously they were gonna have to struggle, and that missions were gonna keep failing because there's a mole. And obviously this was important because the season's best episode, Mer Mysteries, was like, without this episode, Mer Mysteries wouldn't have worked as well because we didn't need this. But again, it's just fighting more bots. And I'm curious. I mean, we do see in the episode Glimmer struggling once again with being away from the action. And we see her, I forgot how much of Glimmer was in this episode until I watched it again. But
not enough Glimmer, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Because I know that Noelle said that this season was Glimmer's season, and I really wanted, if there was ever going to be an episode that was going to be like really capturing how it feels to be on the other side of things, how it feels to be Glimmer, like getting hung up on by Bo and Adora and being lied to about the things that are happening in the missions and like missing out on the action and having to face it. I really kind of wanted this episode to just be from Glimmer's perspective and have her just keep sending people out on missions and then getting the information back that it failed and people are hurt and all this. Like, imagine if, I know, it's weird. It's one of those things where, like, yes, the show is called She-Ra, so of course She-Ra has to, I feel like they felt like She-Ra has to be in the episode always. But I don't think so. I think it would have. We've had episodes in the past that have just been solely on Catra and Scorpia and the Horde. So I'm like, why can't we have just a solo episode of Glimmer and getting really into the psyche of what it's like to be a ruler that is not allowed to be out there with her friends and the consequences of her making these decisions as a leader? I mean, we do see it, but I kind of wanted them to really kind of lean in on that. Did you guys feel like that was necessary, or is what the episode gave us fine? Sam.
I think that the episode was fine. I mean, I don't know. I don't know, man.
I will say, like, look, I want more Glimmer, obviously, but at the same, I think that the blame is more on the action side of this episode not being as compelling. So that's why I want to go back to like the emotional manipulation between Glimmer and Shadow Weaver, because that's more stimulating. But like, I can have fun with She-Ra and Bo and Natasha and Spinnerella. That they have a good time together. I just wish that the stuff they were doing was more substantial. So I think that's more the problem than because I will say, like, this scene in particular with Glimmer and Shadow Weaver is very strong, and it sets up a lot of her actions going forward, like Mere Mysteries. So like I think that's asking for more Glimmer in this episode is warranted, but also I think that there's enough in this episode to set up what's going to happen, what the Glimmer's actions and the rift that continues to grow because of this conversation.
Yeah, Glimmer gets her time in the not sun.
In the dark.
In the dark. No, totally. I do. I mean, I agree with you. I just kind of wish they really kind of made a stronger choice on that front. But I agree with you. We do get a lot of Glimmer. Something that's really interesting is, and I feel like this season overall is just really, and we've seen this in the past. Like the Glimmer Catra tension has always been something that has fascinated me, and the fact that Glimmer goes after Bo gets hurt, and she goes, it's Catra's fault. Just being like, oh, next season's gonna be so fun. Cause Glimmer and Catra do not get along. Like that fight between them at the end of the episode was so enjoyable, just because seeing them go off at each other was just fantastic. But before we get into Catra, let's talk about Shadow Weaver and Glimmer, Alex.
Yes.
So basically this is the start of Shadow Weaver's influence. We see that, she's like gardening, and it's like creating these magical plants, and everyone's just letting her. I guess you could say she isn't the one. I mean, is she the one that kind of suggested using Adora as a decoy? Or was that just like something that Glimmer just came to that conclusion herself? Like she set up the situation. Like she set up the situation so that Glimmer could come to that conclusion, 100%. But I don't know. Like, what do you think of like that entire kind of conversation that they have?
Well, look, the part that I lean onto is that Shadow Weaver is very wise to continue hammering at Glimmer's family as like ways to get her to do things. Like she'll bring up Micah to be like, "Oh, you're more powerful than Micah," because you hold your dad in like this pedestal. So like if I compare you to him, that's like being very, very flattering. And then it's like, but hey, you're being too much like your mom. And like Glimmer obviously has always struggled with not wanting to be like her mom. So it's like, whoa. So like that. So like she knows what buttons to push, and it's like so masterfully devious the way that she talks to her. And it's like she gets to this point, like you got to choose what kind of queen you want to be. It's like she's like slowly pushing her to be like, make your own decisions. You don't need to consult your friends to do these things. You're the queen. You can do whatever you want. And like that kind of thinking ends up infecting her decisions later on in the season. But because like of the And like I think it's interesting because probably what's going on is that Shadow Weaver wants more control over Glimmer, but I think that the result of this ends up being that Glimmer just totally shuts everyone out, including Shadow Weaver at the end. So like it's funny how like this also backfires in Shadow Weaver's face as well later on, even though like at the end of the day, like this harms everybody. So it's just it's in knowing how the season ends up. This conversation ends up being very illuminating as to why Glimmer ends up making the types of decisions that she makes, like in terms of shutting Adora and Bo out, because she's so focused on wanting to be her own queen and wanting to set herself apart from her mom, that she's willing to do these more aggressive things that she was never allowed to do when Angela was in power.
Yeah. Sam, do you have anything to add to
I
Shadow
do not.
Weaver?
No.
Well, do you think it was in... Okay, well, here's a question. Do you think we've seen Dark Glimmer yet? Like, I know, like, in the lead up to this season, there was a lot of theories of Dark Glimmer. Have we seen Dark Glimmer or no?
I don't think so.
Why?
think so. I think Dark Glimmer is coming. I think... I don't know. So we kind of went all in on that hype train of Dimmer. Partially as
Dimmer,
a joke,
is that
I would
really
think.
what they
Dimmer,
call her?
yes. Dimmer.
It was not a joke. It was very serious.
But
man.
obviously, you have to have a point B between A and C, right?
Right.
So this season, I would guess, is point B. But I wonder, like, are we going to get Dark Glimmer in the spaceship? Is that going to happen? Is she going to be the big boss, the final villain? That would be a fun twist. I don't think that's going to happen. But I think she has more depths to fall through.
Okay.
I would say that I think we did see Dark Glimmer in this season, because like the decision at the end of the season to like activate all the princesses against She-Ra's wishes. She-Ra, the one person who like knows what all this works, and Glimmer's just like, nah, I need the power. It's like that's pretty dark and like very. Again, like this is a very much like a Shadow Weaver influenced decision for her to make. So like I personally think that that's the lowest we'll see Glimmer, because it was tough to see Glimmer like make such a bad decision like out of haste like that. So it starts from this episode and it progresses to there. But I think that's pretty much the Dark Glimmer we're going to get. And I enjoyed it. I think that it was dark enough because what hurts the most is seeing the distancing between Glimmer and her old friends. And like that in itself is true darkness. And this show focused so much on friendship and love. So yeah, Dark Glimmer happened, and I enjoyed the darkness that we got.
The real darkness is shoving away your friends.
Yeah.
That's nice, but not nice.
I will say I agree with Sam. I don't think we've seen Dark Glimmer yet, and I'll tell you why. I wish, there was that point in the episode where she has to pick between Catra and the bomb, right? It's like Catra tells her, like, all right, well, either you catch me or you stop this bomb from going off. But then the show does this thing where instead of actually forcing Glimmer to make a decision, instead it just conveniently has Catra falling, like a giant iron bar falling on Catra and trapping her. I kind of wish we had seen that choice. I wanted it, obviously, I don't know, maybe this is why I think that Dark Glimmer is still to come, because we have yet to.
You're talking about specifically this episode?
Yes, this is what the podcast is about. Is this episode?
Oh,
No.
okay.
I did ask Dark Glimmer in general. That I did ask in general.
Because I would agree. In this episode, she's not Dark Glimmer.
No. I was talking about the season overall, but I'm talking about in this episode, there was an opportunity to kind of show that at the end of the day, Glimmer is good at heart. Which is, instead of following Catra, she would stop the bomb at the end of the day. Instead, we got that moral decision, that choice of, am I gonna pick the bomb or am I gonna pick Catra? We didn't get that choice from her. So I kind of wish we had, because what if she had chosen Catra? Maybe, like, I don't know, like, it said that the half of the Whispering Woods would have blown up. We don't know if Adora was that close. We don't know. So I kind of wish she had been forced to make that choice instead of had that choice taken away from her. I don't know. She might have picked Quattro, and I feel like when she is allowed to make the choice, and we have seen in previous seasons that she is willing to go far, and there's always someone, whether it's Bo or Adora, who pulls her back. So it's kind of like, all right, well, especially at the end of next season where she's not going to have either of them. She's going to have Quattro by her side. It's like, well, what if, like, we do see a darkness in her, like, more of, like, having to make that moral choice? Because while, yes, the choice she makes at the end, in the finale is morally ambiguous, because, yes, like, but at the end of the day, she's more taking it like a ends justify the means kind of thing. She says, we have to win this war, so we need this power. She's not saying, oh, I'm power hungry and I want to destroy everything. She's like, no, this is a strategic thing.
But there's a very fine line there.
Totally, there's a very fine line there, but I'm saying that it's not inherently an evil, dark thing to do. So it's kind of like, it's like, she's not opening the portal for selfish reasons. She's trying to save Etheria, but then it's like she doesn't have all the information that Adora and Bo have found out later on. Because even then, yeah, She-Ra's the one who knows it all. She doesn't know it until she goes to see Entrapta and stuff, like, completely. Right? So, personally, I'm just like, I think there's still a little bit of darkness there. I want to see her have to make a choice. And if we are going to get Dark Glimmer, having her pick the wrong choice. Because right now, it's kind of like, it's more, she's thinking like a queen. It's like, yeah, it's morally ambiguous, but I wouldn't go so far as to say, like, oh, like, she knew all the facts and is willing to do the bad thing, if that makes any sense. And I think that's what makes the finale so compelling. It's like, she is, like, they're all kind of, it's just miscommunication that's the problem. And it's like, and it's this weird thing where, like, information is, like, not everyone knows everything, and everyone finds out at the, like, in a stagnated way and stuff. So that was why I find so interesting and compelling, where it's like, Glimmer doesn't think she's wrong. Whereas, like, I'm like, well, I want her to just go to a place where she has to make a choice of, do I pick what's, like, something bad, or do I pick, like, do I succumb to kind of anger, or do I not succumb to it? Does she fall to the dark side? That's kind of what I want to see a little bit more later. But again, that's just me. Let's talk about Quattro, who had no problem trying to kill Bo. She even asked, like, oh, did he, like, blow up? And that didn't work. That's really interesting. Quattro, we know, has fallen to the depths of darkness. But she's also, again, we have this really interesting interaction at the end of the episode where Double Trouble saves her, and then she's all like, yay, like, she just really is, like, friends with Double Trouble, and then Double Trouble goes like, so where's my money? I think that's, like, a really interesting kind of thing where we finally have a character in a way that's more Quattro than Quattro, if that makes any sense. What do you think about that take of Double Trouble?
Double Trouble I get maybe Double Trouble is, like, a little bit more of the archetype of what we think of Quattro to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like they fit, like, the sexy, mischievous, like, I don't give a care in the world about what this person thinks. I'm just gonna go and do what I want to do when what fits my needs. When Quattro is full of a lot of anxiety and worry about, like, what other people think. Right.
Alex, do you think Double Trouble cares about Quattro or no? Like truly cares about Quattro?
Not really. Double Trouble wants this experience to be as fun as possible, so they can both enjoy the chaos. I think Double Trouble loves chaos, and
I see.
and so Double Trouble does do it for the money, but I think that they also do it for the enjoy. I think that they even say something about, like, the enjoyment of watching your enemies fall or something like that. So Double Trouble takes some pride in their work. And Quattro does things sometimes to torture people, but also for to, like, prove something to people as well. Like, Quattro's trying to, like, prove herself to Hordak or prove herself to Adora in the early part of the show. So, like, Quattro is motivated by different things than Double Trouble. So because of that, I think that Double Trouble it's not a real personal connection that they have to Quattro right now.
Right. Do you think Double Trouble is a chaotic neutral or a chaotic evil? No, I'm just kidding.
It's like somewhere in the middle.
Because there's the chaotic good, chaotic neutral, chaotic evil. So does Double Trouble fall in chaotic neutral or no?
It ends up being chaotic neutral, right? Because they switch over to the light moon, right moon side anyway.
Yeah.
So
can they just be chaotic?
I mean, that's true. Yeah,
that's chaotic neutral.
They are chaotic.
Just chaotic.
Both sides.
Just chaotic. All right, fair. So the other half of this episode, outside of Glimmer, outside of Shadow Weaver and Catra, is the action missions that were happening with Adora and Bo and Natasa and Spinnerella.
I mean, that's the big reason why this episode is good, or why I think of it fondly.
Because of these two characters, these two lesbians who are super adorable, and I hate to say this, I don't care about.
Well, let's go to Sam first. I want to hear it. Please defend the love of Natasa and Spinnerella.
Oh my god, I'm not I wasn't in there with a magnifying glass in season 1. Jeez, I barely remembered what they looked like. But, I thought, they were cute, and, I can appreciate, a cute couple doing cute couple things. But, I do agree with you, Beatrice, that, I don't really care about, their lives, or, I guess I care if they live or die, obviously. I'm not, a monster. But, I don't, care to know what they're always up to,
You don't want to watch their board game nights?
Yeah, you don't want to go to game night?
I would go to that, but I wouldn't want to watch it.
All right. So you're right. It was adorable. I loved the forehead kiss at the end. And if this were any other show, I'd think, oh goodness, one of them is gonna die at the end, right? It's Glimmer's using Adora as a decoy. Which also, big thing. Glimmer is using Adora as a decoy. Which also, by the way, if Adora knows that she's a decoy, is it bad for Glimmer to use her as a decoy? Or no? Because that's something. It's that, is it bad if Adora's in on it? If Adora's okay, I'm going to be used as a decoy, cool. Then, because that to me is smart strategic planning. If we know anyway, that's side point. But, yeah, if this were any other show, I'd be so scared for Natasa and Spinnerella because shows tend to kill their lesbian couples. They just have this tendency. But this show has gained my trust, so I know that they're not gonna die. I know that it's not gonna be some. If there's a character that's gonna again, and there's been so many character deaths, and usually the deaths are big and important and meaningful, so I knew that they were gonna be okay. But yeah, I don't, and it's crazy that I'm making this, but because granted, I had just seen, before rewatching these episodes, I watched the latest episode of Ruby, where you had these two characters that you got to know in 6 seasons, finally are flirting on screen together, and it felt so satisfying, right? Finally, the two people finally got together, and this is characters that we care about outside of their sexuality, it's they're fully formed characters beyond that, and you get to know them, and they're finally flirting with each other on screen, and it's the greatest feeling in the world, and I'm just thinking, as nice as this is, as nice as it is to see Natasa and Spinnerella, being a couple, and then kind of try, people just if they're having this kind of play fighting, everyone just being being awkward, and it's lovely and it's adorable. I just couldn't help but think, wouldn't it be cool if they had the development of a Perfuma or a Mermista? Again, I'm not asking them to be the center stage. I'm not asking them to be on the same level as Bo and Adora and Glimmer. I'm just saying they're princesses too, and you kind of forget that. You know what I mean?
It's everybody was not everybody. Dylan was oh, Spinnerella and Natasa, and I'm who? Which I feel bad about, but I mean, the show has a lot to offer just in terms of its gay stuff. And, this is just like, oh yeah, they have those people in the background who are together, and they kiss, and it's nice.
I don't know.
But I don't care as much about that, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's because and this is where this is something like a rule that I've recently created for myself and created for shows, where it's if you can take the characters that are LGBT and cut them out of the show, and the show itself can still run, the plot is fine and there's nothing and it's all fine and the show doesn't collapse on itself, then you're not really doing LGBT representation great. And granted, I'm saying if they were and I guess it's because they remind me of the breadcrumbs we would get growing up of in media, of people just patting themselves on the back for see, this is LGBT representation, we did it, congrats, we're done. And it's kind of this isn't enough if this were the only thing. Again, if seeing the just Spinnerella and Natasa in a vacuum, not taking into consideration anything else in the show, then this would be insulting to me. I think maybe that's why I find I'm not that happy about. I think it's cute, but I don't really care about them, and I'm not letting myself care about them because me 10 years ago would have written fan fiction about them. Yeah. But now I would be I deserve better than this. And I'm not saying that we need, that there needs to be, a romance between Adora or whatever. This is not the time. But even, for instance, Bo's dads, right? At least, there's more development with Bo's dads in that one episode than we've gotten with Natasa and Spinnerella. His dads, and also it's because his dads, by virtue of being his dads, we see exploration of Bo, we get to know his family, it's there's a lot there. Whereas with them, it's even when there was a moment to show some sort of interest where it's where all the princesses abandoned them and stuff, it's nothing. We got nothing. And this was the episode though we could get something. And instead it's nope, we are just going to continue piling on the fact that they're a cute couple and it's great, but I still don't know anything about them. And the fact that I like Kyle more than I like Natasa and Spinnerella is absurd to me, but I do. And it's how is that possible? So, Alex, am I a bad gay for this?
I'm the wrong person to ask in regards to are you a bad gay?
I don't think that you are.
Thank you, Sam.
But I will say, an issue that we've been touched. I mean, Kyle, Lonnie, and Rogelio, they have their. I mean, Rogelio, I don't know, but Kyle and Lonnie, they have their personalities, right? They're defined. I can't tell you what the real difference is between Natasa and Spinnerella in terms of how they are. In this episode, they're both competitive, and that's it. That's all I got about their personalities. And again, we haven't seen them really in significant part since season 1, and I don't recall there being much in the way of revealing personality back then either. So I think that's a big part of this. It's I see them as a couple, but in order to care about a couple, I need to care about the individuals, and I don't know enough about the individuals to accept that. I mean, you bring up Kyle. Kyle has a personality, and because of the established personality, when he gets his episode later on this season, it feels consequential because I at least know something about where he's come from. I don't really know that about Natasa and Spinnerella, so I think that's at the end of the day the big problem here, that just we don't really have much to latch onto. This is mean. They're like the bots. I don't have anything to latch onto the bots, and so it's hard for me to care when they get destroyed. And similarly, Natasa and Spinnerella, Spinnerella gets knocked out at some point, and Natasa, or one of them gets knocked out, and the other comes oh, are you okay? And they're I won, yay! It's it's cute, and they do the forehead thing, but. I don't know. Would I have been shocked? Would I have been heartbroken if one of them was sick or something? Not really, because I don't know. I don't know anything about them.
Yeah.
You really hit the nail on the head there, Alex. With the, I can't care about the couple if you don't care about the individuals. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, that's a good quote. Very good quote. But yeah, is there anything else from episode 4 that you want to speak on before we wrap up?
No.
No.
I'm trying to think. Like, was there anything like notable with Adora in this episode? Besides, I guess like her main thing is just she's complaining about being a decoy at the end, right?
Well, also, you do see little cracks of like her blaming herself for Bo getting hurt. The whole guilt of like, oh, I'm at fault here. They're following me. They're tracking me. So I think maybe that's we do see from Adora, I think. So yeah, that's the big thing with her.
Yeah, so small moments for Adora in terms of setting up her continuing struggles with being She-Ra and like the responsibility that carries is sometimes a lot.
Oh yeah, and the big reveal when Glimmer tells Adora and Bo that Shadow Weaver is going to teach her magic. And then Adora just being like, what?
Yeah.
Excuse me?
And Glimmer, in her grand queenness, just totally ignores her. It's
eat some cake. Let him eat cake. I'm gonna eat some cake. Is basically what Glimmer went out to do. Yeah. Well, Sam, any final thoughts?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think we're just rolling on into the future.
Okay, well...
Like the bots, they roll, right?
Like the rots, yeah. They sometimes roll, they sometimes, like, crawl, they sometimes explode. Bots.
I wish that this show had better disposable villains than the bots, but, that's just what we got.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah. But yeah, you can find out all the info on this podcast at overlyanimated.com. You can join us on Discord to text chat about animation at overlyanimated.com/Discord. You can support us via Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to all our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Lily, aka Panda Lily. And thanks as always to our Patreon executive producers, Ryan, Steve, Alex, Beatrice, Hugh, Michael, and Needle. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.